I couldn't possibly eat another bite. We've all said it. You've just finished a huge meal. Your stomach feels like it's operating at maximum capacity. You unbutton your jeans. You lean back in your chair. You begin questioning every life choice that led to that third helping of potatoes. Then someone says, "Would anyone like dessert?" And suddenly you're interested again. A mysterious second stomach appears, one reserved exclusively for cake. But is that actually what's happening? Or is your brain pulling one of the oldest tricks in the book? Today, we're uncovering the science behind the dessert stomach effect and why cheesecake somehow always finds room. The idea of a dessert stomach exists in almost every culture. Everyone knows the feeling. You feel completely full, yet somehow a brownie, ice cream, or slice of cake sounds absolutely perfect. And while it might feel like magic, scientists actually have a pretty good explanation. It involves your brain, your senses, your evolutionary history, and a phenomenon with a surprisingly complicated name: sensory-specific satiety. Don't worry. The concept is much simpler than it sounds. Most people assume fullness is controlled entirely by the stomach. Makes sense, right? Food goes in, stomach fills up, signal received, meal over. But the truth is more complicated. Your stomach is only part of the decision-making process. The real boss is your brain. Your stomach sends information about stretching and fullness. Hormones help communicate how much you've eaten. Then your brain takes all that information and decides whether you're satisfied. And here's the funny part. Your brain isn't always perfectly logical, because while your stomach might say, "We're done here," your brain can suddenly respond, "Interesting point. However, chocolate cake." This is where sensory-specific satiety comes in. Here's how it works. The more you eat a particular food, the less rewarding that specific food becomes. Think about pizza. The first slice, amazing. The second slice, still fantastic. The third slice, pretty good. The fifth slice, you're no longer eating because you're hungry. You're eating because quitting now would feel like admitting defeat. As you continue eating, your brain becomes less excited by those flavors. This helps prevent us from endlessly consuming the exact same thing. But here's the important detail. The reduced enjoyment mainly applies to the food you've already been eating, not to completely different foods. So after a savory meal full of meats, vegetables, sauces, and bread, a sweet dessert arrives. To your brain, that's not more food. It's a brand new experience, different flavor, different texture, different reward, and suddenly your appetite gets a second wind. This same principle explains why buffets can be so difficult to resist. Imagine a buffet with only pasta. You'd probably stop eating fairly quickly. Now imagine a buffet with pizza, sushi, curries, burgers, salads, pastries, ice cream, chocolate fountains, and approximately 17 foods you've never seen before. Suddenly your brain keeps finding new things to get excited about. Each new flavor resets some of that declining interest, which means variety can encourage us to eat more overall. This isn't a design flaw. From an evolutionary perspective, it actually made sense. Eating a variety of foods increased the chances of getting different nutrients. Our ancestors benefited from seeking variety, unfortunately. Our ancestors didn't have unlimited access to cheesecake factories and all-you-can-eat dessert bars. There's another important distinction. Being hungry and wanting food are not exactly the same thing. Scientists often separate eating into two categories. First, there's biological hunger. This is your body's need for energy. Then there's hedonic eating. That's eating because something looks, smells, or tastes pleasurable. Desserts are experts at triggering hedonic eating. You might not need more calories and you might not even be hungry anymore. But when someone places a warm chocolate brownie in front of you, your brain isn't conducting a nutritional analysis. It's simply saying, that looks incredible. And honestly, it's hard to argue with that logic. Humans are naturally attracted to sweet foods. For most of human history, sweetness was a useful clue. Sweet foods often meant energy-rich foods, ripe fruit, for example. So our brains evolved to find sweetness rewarding. Fast forward to modern times, and now we have desserts so engineered for deliciousness that they would probably confuse a prehistoric human. Imagine explaining cookie dough ice cream to a caveman. They'd probably assume you'd become a wizard. Sweet foods activate reward pathways in the brain. That's one reason desserts can feel so irresistible even after a large meal. The room for dessert isn't necessarily physical, it's psychological. So, does a dessert stomach really exist? Not exactly. There's no hidden compartment inside your body reserved for cake. As disappointing as that may be, what we call the dessert stomach effect is actually a combination of sensory-specific satiety, our love of variety, the brain's reward systems, and the difference between hunger and desire. Together, these factors can make dessert feel appealing long after we've supposedly reached our limit. So next time someone says, "I thought you were full," you can respond with, "Actually, this is a fascinating interaction between sensory-specific satiety and reward-driven eating behavior." Or you can simply say, "Cake has its own rules," which is probably easier. What's the one dessert that always defeats your self-control? Chocolate cake? Ice cream? Cheesecake? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more fascinating science behind everyday life. Thanks for watching. And remember, no matter how full you think you are, the dessert menu always has other ideas.